This is the time where we're going to have to start diversifying the content and trying not to step on any toes. The reason I say that is because now that preseason games are happening and inevitably regular season games, it's gonna be an interesting puzzle, Tetris-like challenge to make videos and publish content that does not interfere with the games that are going on. The reason I say that is, I don't want to make a Vancouver Canucks-related video and publish it right before a Vancouver Canucks game. That's kind of stupid, because Canucks fans are not going to be paying attention to YouTube and watching my video, they'll be watching the real-life game. So, if there's a lot of distance in between, okay, we're going to make a Canadiens video in the morning, and then the game is going to be on however many hours later, then that's okay. But, for the most part, this is the biggest challenge, the biggest obstacle that a content creator in the sports world has to face, or at least one with my mindset, sometimes people do it, it's fine. But either way, today we're talking about a team that is not active today. They're not going to play anything. They're playing stuff tomorrow against Vancouver, which is kind of convenient for me. But what we're doing is talking about the Calgary Flames because of some ideas that were tossed out there onto The Athletic earlier. When was this? Was this yesterday? The 23rd. Yes, it was yesterday. I'm going to leave a link in the description to this article on The Athletic, published by Eric Duhacek, Fixing the NHL Schedule, Trade Candidates, and Memories of Johnny Gaudreau. Link is going to be in the description. It's The Athletic, paid for material. We're not going to screenshot the article. Instead, we're going over onto Spectre's hockey from yesterday, September 23rd, because Lyle Richardson summarizes a lot of the ideas that are put into the Athletic piece. So, let's dive into what the articles have to write about some of the top Calgary Flames guys. Amid rumors of unrest among some Flames veterans not wanting to be stuck in a rebuild, Eric Duhacek was asked by a reader what the trade market would be for Huberdeau, Coleman, Weegar, Macklin, and Kadri. This is where Duhacek writes about the Huberdeau trade idea. He doesn't see Huberdeau moving without the Flames retaining at least 30% on his $10.5 million AAV cap hit. The 31-year-old winger must also re-establish himself as a point-per-game player. Spectre's note goes out there and reads this: Duhacek believes we should never say never, but the Flames will find Huberdeau difficult to move with that hefty cap hit running through 2030-2031. He also has a full no-movement clause throughout the deal. So, I mostly wanted to talk about Huberdeau, but before we dive into that, we can just kind of check up on the other conversations too. Blake Coleman, 32, could have the most value in a trade. He has a championship pedigree and a $4.9 million AAV through 2026-2027. Teams could come calling about the two-way forward near the trade deadline. Spectre's notes writes that he agrees Coleman has a 10-team no-trade list, but that gives the Flames considerable leeway if the right offer is made. The 35-year-old Macklin took a pay cut to stay in Calgary. He could draw attention near the trade deadline, but finishing his career with the team he started with is important to him. I don't see him moving, replied Duhacek. Weegar carries a $6.25 million AAV through 2031 and is an important piece of the Flames' transition. Duhacek believes it would take something special to pry him away. He thought the Ottawa Senators would be a good destination for Weegar, but the Flames' asking price would be Shane Pinto, and that's a non-starter for Ottawa. Meanwhile, Nazem Kadri, 33, has a $7 million cap hit through 2028-2029. Duhacek thinks he would be a good addition to a club with a 3-year Stanley Cup window. However, Kadri recently told reporters to pump the brakes on trade speculation. The Flames' performance this season could determine Kadri's willingness to stick around. His cap hit isn't as expensive as Huberdeau's, but the Flames might still have to retain some of it to facilitate a deal because of his age. Now, this is kind of a holistic view of some of these Calgary Flames guys. Duhacek also wrote about how Kuzmenko and Anthony Mantha could be trade candidates, but I wanted to focus on the top dog. Let's talk about Jonathan Huberdeau, because the way his career has gone has been so wishy-washy, so fickle. He was so good for so long, and then he just fell off of a cliff. To the point that now, when you think about Huberdeau and his capabilities, you have to start wondering, okay, what is his real value at the NHL level? Yes, he's a 50-point caliber guy now, which is fine, relatively speaking to most players, but not for a guy who's making $10.5 million a year. $10.5 million is like the same caliber of player that the 115-point Jonathan Huberdeau was back in 2022. He had 2 meh seasons after that, and now we're talking about trading the guy at 31 years old. If you wanted to do some of the math here, okay, let's talk about Eric Duhatschek's number. 30% of Jonathan Huberdeau's $10.5 million retained. Okay, let's see if we can do the mental math here. 30% retained would go from $10 million to $7 million, and then from $100,000 to $70,000. Take $70,000, multiply it by 5, because you don't have $100,000, you have $500,000. $70,000 times 5 is $350,000. Add that to $7 million, $7.35 million. Yes, I am a wizard. Hell yeah. No wonder I got the math award and was one of the best math students in my city when I was growing up in high school. Yeah. Honestly, when I think about it like that, yeah, no, Huberdeau is still too expensive. $7.35 million a year for a 50-point guy? I get it, there's upward potential with Huberdeau. You can say, hey, the guy has the ability to maybe get 80, 90, 100 points. He had 115 a few years ago. He's good. But with the Calgary Flames, with the lack of talent around him, sorry, he's not playing with an Alexander Barkov anymore. Jonathan Huberdeau fell off in a really, really big way, and it's to the point that, yeah, you can say it's because of the transition, you can say it's because of the way Calgary plays on the rush versus how Florida played on the rush, but you could also say, hey, Jonathan Huberdeau, you're making $5 million bucks, you're supposed to be the guy to carry the load. You are supposed to be the player that, with this money, you're good enough to have results no matter where you are. Huberdeau fell off so much, and now the team around him is so meh that I don't think this guy's ever going to get a 90-point season ever again. He's not going to do it with the Calgary Flames this year. So if there is some sort of a trade and the team is willing to bite on him and his long contract at 7.35, so $10.5 million with 30% salary retained, then hey, be my guest. It'd make for some interesting content here in the YouTube channel, but honestly, I don't know if that really would be the best way to build a hockey team. Bringing in an expensive guy with this much level of disappointment in his game that you have no idea how he's going to play. Unless you play him with Barkov again on a team that has that on-the-rush style like Florida, I have no idea how Jonathan Huberdeau is going to do in some other organization. Who knows, man? Maybe the Calgary Flames really will be the team that revives him. Maybe it's Andrei Kuzmenko's duty to go out there and give Huberdeau a career in Calgary. And maybe Huberdeau is on pace for 75 points with Kuzmenko, and that opens the door for Calgary to trade him to a playoff contender. He goes over, he becomes a point-per-game guy again, he has a crazy playoff run, and he wins a Stanley Cup in 2025. Maybe that's possible. But from our perspective right now, it's very difficult to envision considering how poorly he has performed comparative to expectations. Again, a 50-point player is not bad. 50 points is 50 points. The majority of human beings on the planet can't even get 1 point in the NHL. So Huberdeau is good, it's just definitely not as good as before, therefore he is disappointing, and therefore he is a trade candidate. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below with Jonathan Huberdeau and whether or not you think he could get traded with some sort of a 30% retained mark. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.